the Palantíri, the seeing stones of Middle-earth, ancient, unblinking, filled with mystery. To some they were gifts of wisdom, linking kingdoms across vast distances. To others, they became instruments of despair, showing only what could not be resisted, twisting hope into ruin. But the Palantíri themselves were never evil. They were created with a purpose, given as gifts, treasured by the wise. What made them dangerous was not what they showed, but how they were used, and by whom. In this video we'll explore the power and the purpose of the Palantíri, their origins, their role in Númenor and in the realms of Gondor and Arnor, the ways they were misused, and what became of them after the fall of Sauron. And to begin, we must go back to the very beginning, to the Blessed Realm itself. Hello everyone, and welcome to Storyteller's Codex. Here, we delve deep into the rich lore of The Lord of the Rings, A Song of Ice and Fire, and the vast worlds beyond. Welcome. The story of the Palantíri begins far away from Middle-earth, in the blessed realm of Valinor. There, among the greatest of the Noldor elves was Feanor, the same craftsman who forged the Silmarils. Alongside those jewels he created many other wonders, and among them were the Palantíri. The name itself means those that watch from afar. Unlike the Silmarils, the Palantíri did not hold the light of the two trees. They had no beauty of their own. Instead, they were tools of knowledge and vision, designed to allow their users to see across great distances, and even across time. It's important to remember, in their making, the Palantíri were never instruments of domination. They were gifts of clarity, meant to bring understanding, to bridge vast spaces, perhaps even to remind the elves of their kin who remained in Middle-earth. From Valinor they were later gifted to the Númenorians, those men most beloved by the Valar. And there they became symbols not of pride or of power, but of friendship, of trust between the Eldar and the Edain. But Númenor itself was destined for a tragic fall, and in that downfall the fate of the Palantíri would change forever. When the Palantíri came into the hands of the Númenorians, they were treasured as heirlooms. On their island kingdom set apart in the western seas, the stones were not only a marvel, but a living connection to the wisdom of the Eldar in Middle-earth. But Númenor's story, as we know, is one of Rhys Miras and fall. As the island's kings grew proud, they turned away from the Valar and from the friendship of the elves, and yet the Palantíri endured, silent, unchanging, untainted by human ambition. When Ar-Pharazôn's pride brought ruin and the sea swallowed Númenor, a remnant of the faithful escaped. Elendil, with his sons Isildur and Anarion, carried many treasures across the waves. Among them were the 7 Palantíri. In Middle-earth these stones were placed in towers across the new realms of Arnor in the north and Gondor in the south. Their purpose was clear, to maintain unity between the two kingdoms, to provide counsel and communication over long distances, and to watch for threats in a world still scarred by the memory of Sauron. The Palantíri had become more than heirlooms. They were guardians of knowledge and of trust, helping to knit together the fragile exiled kingdoms of men. But as with so many gifts in Tolkien's world, their true danger would only be revealed in time, and that danger became clear in how the stones were used across the kingdoms of men. In Middle-earth, the 7 Palantíri were carefully placed to serve the kingdoms. In the south, Gondor held the chief stone at Osgiliath. Other stones were at Minas Anor, later Minas Tirith, and at Minas Ithil, the twin city across the Anduin. Orthanc and Isengard held another, keeping watch over the Gap of Rohan. In the north, Arnor placed theirs at Anúminas, at Fornost, and atop the great watchtower of Amon Sul. Through these stones, the Dúnedain could communicate across hundreds of miles, as if standing face to face. They could survey the lands around them, peer far into the distance, even glimpse events of the past. The chief stone, at Osgiliath, had the power to oversee and govern all the others, binding them into a single network, giving the kingdoms of men an extraordinary advantage. It was a way of overcoming the vast distances of Middle-earth, ensuring that Gondor and Arnor remained united, even when separated by mountains and wilderness. Yet the Palantíri were not toys, nor were they simple tools. To use them required strength of will and clarity of mind. A weak or untrained user might see only shadows and confusion. But one of Númenorian blood, strong in spirit, could bend their vision to great distances, discerning truths hidden to others. At their height, the Palantíri were symbols of order, of vigilance, of unity. But when the stones were misused, or fell into the wrong hands, they revealed their peril, and nowhere was that peril clearer than when Sauron himself laid claim to one of the stones. For all their usefulness, the Palantíri carried a hidden peril. They did not deceive, at least not on their own. What they showed was always true, in some sense. But like a mirror that only reflects part of the world, their visions could mislead those who looked without wisdom. That danger grew when one of the stones was captured by the enemy. The Ithil stone kept at Minas Ithil fell into Sauron's hands when he seized the city, and remade it into Minas Morgul. With it, he could dominate the network of stones, bending their visions to his will, overwhelming weaker minds who dared to look into them. Two of the most tragic examples come from the later years of the Third Age. Saruman, proud and confident, believed himself strong enough to master the Orthanc stone, but through it Sauron ensnared him, feeding his ambition and leading him into treachery. Denethor, the steward of Gondor, also turned to a Palantir, the stone of Minas Tirith. What he saw was true. Sauron's vast armies gathering, the power of Mordor growing beyond hope. But he did not see everything. He was shown despair, without the possibility of victory. Until his spirit broke, and he sought his own end in fire. In this way, the Palantíri became tools of destruction, not because they were corrupted in their making, but because they revealed only fragments of truth, fragments that Sauron could twist, fragments that could drive even the proudest minds to ruin. And with the fall of the Third Age came the final decline of these stones, leaving only echoes of what they once were. By the end of the War of the Ring, the once great network of Palantíri was broken. The Master Stone at Osgiliath was long gone, sunk beneath the Anduin when the Dome of Stars was destroyed during civil war. The Ithil stone remained in Mordor, its visions darkened by Sauron's hand. The stone at Orthanc was recovered after Saruman's fall, though it would never again be fully trusted. In Minas Tirith, Denethor's stone survived, but it too was scarred, its sight fixed eastward, showing only the emptiness of Mordor, a grim reminder of the struggle that had consumed Gondor. And in the north, with the fall of Arnor centuries earlier, its stones were lost, buried, or destroyed. Yet not all hope was gone. Aragorn, heir of Elendil, proved that the Palantíri were not irredeemable. His will was great enough to withstand their strain. He even used them to reveal himself openly to Sauron, striking fear into the Dark Lord before the final battles. In the hands of the wise, the stones could still fulfill their original purpose, instruments of clarity, not of deception. But with the dawning of the Fourth Age, their time had passed. The kingdoms of men no longer relied on them, and the days of wonder, when elves and Númenorians looked across Middle-earth through the unblinking gaze of the Palantíri, were over. They remained only as relics, powerful, perilous, half-forgotten, and yet their legacy lingers, not just as artifacts of history, but as lessons about power, about truth, and about the hearts of those who seek them. The story of the Palantíri is, in many ways, the story of power itself in Tolkien's legendarium. The stones were not evil. They were made as gifts of knowledge, created with care and given in trust, but knowledge without wisdom can become a burden. Truth, seen only in fragments, can lead as easily to despair as to understanding. For Saruman, the Palantír became a channel for his pride. For Denethor, it became a mirror of hopelessness. Yet for Aragorn, it was a test of strength. One that he passed, not by bending the stone to his will, but by meeting its revelations with courage. In the end, the Palantíri remind us of one of Tolkien's central themes. That power is never wholly safe. Even the noblest gifts demand responsibility, and even the clearest vision can be clouded by fear or by ambition. Perhaps their greatest challenge was not in what they revealed, but in the hearts of those who dared to look within them. If you are interested in The Lord of the Rings or A Song of Ice and Fire, click one of the links on the screen to dive deeper into the lore. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next time.